Very good. Welcome back to Bay Sunday. Welcome the author of the book, Dropping the Struggle, 7 Ways to Love the Life You Have, Roger Housden. Thanks so much for being with us. It sounds like a tall order, but something that everybody's looking to do. What do you mean, though, when you say the struggle? What are we trying to drop?
It is a tall order, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because all of us struggle, you know, with one thing or another. And actually, because of that, we can understand that struggle's natural. I mean, after all, we come out of the womb struggling. So it's not that there are not things that we inevitably are going to struggle towards, but I think the trouble comes when we attempt to struggle for things that will never be attained by struggle.
And you mentioned struggling against that sort of voice in your head, this narrative in your head that a lot of us simply ignore because it's just always been there.
Yeah. I mean, really, the struggle that never goes anywhere is the struggle against the reality of the way things are now in our life. So, for example, the simplest thing of driving down the freeway. And I've experienced this, and maybe you have, you know, when there's a huge amount of traffic and you're a little late, right? And you can feel your hands beginning to grip on the steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's almost as if you're willing the car to jump over the cars in front of you, right?
And it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So it's pointless. Right? And in the moment, of course, it's so difficult to get that because we're in our anxiety.
Right.
We're in our struggle. But the simplest thing in that moment that we could do is simply become aware, if we can be quick enough, become aware of our hands on the steering wheel. Place our attention in our hands. The one thing that is always present where we are is our body. So when we move our attention from all the struggle is really going on in our mind. Mm-hmm. If we move our attention down into our body, and in that case that I'm citing specifically the hands, something happens. The struggle actually drops, not because we're trying not to struggle, but we've shifted our attention into the present moment.
So at that moment, you're in the car and you just have to be okay with the fact that you're likely going to be late.
And it's no good saying to yourself, it's okay, I'm going to be late, because that doesn't really work, does it?
Not really.
You know, no. So really, that's still mind chatter. So we need to come down into the reality of where we are, which is in our body, and in this case, bring our attention into our hands, actually feel the sensation in our hands.
This is a form of being in the present moment, but it seems more physical.
Yeah. Well, being in the present moment is physical. I mean, how can it not be?
Right.
And we live most of our lives, really, outside of our body. I mean, we're always either 6 weeks in the future or 20 years in the past.
That is very, very true.
And so that's another thing that really it's futile to struggle against, the past and the future.
Now, you say the struggle, if we have an issue, the struggle gets in the way of the solution. Explain that. Yeah.
I mean, really in that moment, if we stay with that analogy or example of driving in the freeway, what is the solution we're
there
looking
is no
for?
Solution.
Well,
you're on the highway.
You're on the highway. But really, the solution is how can I feel more at ease and content with where I am? How can I let go of the anxiety surrounding my journey? Right?
And
the solution is precisely to bring your awareness into your hands or into your chest, but into your body somewhere. I say the hands because they're on the steering wheel.
And that's what you notice tightening up.
Right. Yeah.
Struggle. One of the struggles that you mentioned, you kind of go through all of the struggles. Struggle for love, struggle for meaning and purpose. And that's something that brought you about writing this book. That's true.
That's true. You know, like most people, I've struggled in one way or another, usually subtly. In other words, I'm not always aware that I was struggling. But one of the ongoing themes in my life has been, until a few years ago, the struggle for meaning and purpose. Like, what am I doing here? what's my life about? That kind of existential question, right? And I'd run all over the world attempting to solve that or find some kind of solution. Perhaps someone else can tell me, right? So I'd run around finding different people and also doing different things that perhaps would solve this sense of an empty gap in the center of my being.
So is it just that you're overthinking it? You're thinking too much about the gap rather than enjoying your moment?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So for me, the whole question of meaning actually is predicated on the future, isn't it? Right? It's the idea of going somewhere, of becoming someone, right? And in the process of getting absorbed in becoming someone, we forget, or I forgot all too easily, that I already was someone. That I already was here and present. And actually, if I'm fully in whatever it is I'm doing, like right now, sitting here and talking to you, if I'm really present with this, the whole question of meaning never arises. It's a thought in my mind, but if I'm really here with you, I forget about meaning and purpose. I'm just here. And this here is enough in itself.
So that seems like a skill that one might have to work on. I don't want to say struggle to work on, but specifically to try not to try.
Oh, yes, I love that, because it's impossible.
Yeah.
How can we try not to try, right? So the one who tries in us is our frontal cortex, that is our conscious self, who we think we are normally. But the only one that can let go of that is a deeper knowing or intelligence in us that is not the conscious self. One can finally see there's no other way. Very quickly, there's an example, for example, that extraordinary explorer, Arctic explorer Ben Saunders, who set out to walk 1,800 miles across the Arctic without any support whatsoever, no aeroplanes, no surveillance, nothing, and no extra supplies. And there he was in the middle of the Arctic, fighting against the wind, huge sub-zero temperatures, pushing his head into the wind. Suddenly, he felt all his struggle and effort fall away because he realized that there's nothing I can do about the wind and the sub-zero temperatures, and he just allowed it, welcomed it.
Because fighting against it isn't going to do a darn thing.
And when he welcomed it, he felt almost a sense of joy.
It's a fascinating subject. Roger Housden is going to have a signing at the Book Passage in Corte Madera. That is coming up on Thursday, September 8th. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Great pleasure.
A lot of food for thought. For more information on Dropping the Struggle, log on to RogerHousden.com. That is RogerHousden.com. We're going to be right back with more Bay Sunday after this break.